Oh my! Looks like the local wildlife found Harbin long before the Brigade. How gruesome! By the Lord Harry, this can't be good.
The world is not short of co-op multiplayer games. There's been a boom in this genre over the past few years that has seen the Left 4 Dead-like games come to life in many ways. I am a sucker for this genre, as when I'm not physically around my friends, we're in a chat party screwing around in Destiny 2 or some other co-op game. This is most likely why Strange Brigade pulled me in so hard, and I now find myself spending countless hours in its Horde mode, where I try and survive the oncoming onslaught of undead Egyptian zombies. So what is Strange Brigade? Well, it's not a zombie game as many people think, more an adventure with friends through various well-designed levels as you try and track down a now risen Egyptian queen known as Sateki, who is trying to raise the dead across Saharan Africa. Sateki once ruled the lands but was overthrown and killed by her people, and 4,000 years later a group of archaeologists have awoken her and now need to stop her from continuing her rule of destruction. Strange Brigade is set in the 1930s, which means the game follows this unique art style and comedic approach as if you were watching an Indiana Jones movie. The entire game is narrated by a posh Englishman, and be warned, there are some extremely cheesy T-jokes.
What's that I hear? The approach of another of Sateki's champions? No problem, surely, for the... Oh, I say, the bounder's got himself a shield! That does rather change things.
I could not help but chuckle at a few things he would pipe up and say throughout the game, be it when I died, killed a dozen enemies with my super attack, or just stood still while I was texting on my phone, only for him to complain that I was wasting his time. The game's art direction follows through every aspect of the experience, and there's a gorgeous world to explore, with 9 large levels, each of them containing a great amount of detail, including puzzles, hidden chambers, lore to collect, and much more. It even made replaying them a few times a joy. From the tunnels of Wajet, where you take an underground approach through the ancient catacombs, to the cursed village where you play through a stage on the brink of night. Skyred from the sun setting, and the shadows hold more danger than you think. I could not help but often stop and stare into the distance and take in the beauty that the game has to offer throughout its 9 stages. Strange Brigade is best played with friends, but do not let that scare you away. It is completely playable alone, and it works very well at that too. The more players you have, the more enemies spawn and the stronger they are. If playing solo, fewer enemies will spawn to balance the gameplay. However, you can tweak each level across 3 difficulties and the enemy count too, so if you want a challenge and you want more enemies, a simple change in the settings in the lobby will make the next experience very different from the last. I played the entire game in co-op with a partner first and then tested the single player mode, and while it was a bit lonely compared to playing with a friend, I was delighted to see that it worked very well. The same amount of treasure and gold is found, and if anything it will make hunting for those trophies and achievements much easier too. Across the game you'll come across puzzles which also alter the mechanics depending on how many players are in your game, and the single player puzzles still offer the same great experiences when solo. Where Strange Brigade really shines is in its great gunplay. Set in the 1930s, the game does not hold your hand when it comes to weapons and inventory. Guns feel hardy and heavy as you take aim and try and shoot that headshot, and the game has no aim assist at all, which means you'll have to gather up whatever skill you have to be the best at exploring each stage, killing enemies, and hopefully coming out alive from that wave-based arena fight. It is what made the game feel so great, as each weapon handles differently and has its own mastering curve that you can either sit down and try and learn, or not. I spent much of the game opting for a fast shooting gun like the Chamberlain or Tompkins, and I actually mastered the recoil and challenging fire rates. I then tried to switch things up and go for the single shot Westminster, and it took me a while to get used to its slow yet hard hitting fire rates. Throughout the game you'll also come across runes that have different perks to them. Each rune can be equipped into your primary weapon and enhance its stats or even give the weapon an elemental power. I packed my Royce M33 carbine with a fire rune, vampire and extra headshot damage, which means I gained health back from each kill, burns enemies and dealt extra headshot damage at the same time. The rune system works great and lets you build your perfect loadout depending on if you're taking on harder difficulties or not. When playing with a friend, it also helps combining runes to create more of a teamwork based loadout, like having an armor piercing rune that penetrates enemies' defenses and a stabilizing rune that helps their Dawn auto rifles recoil. There are 9 runes to collect, and you can go wild with each one across your weapons and back those runes up with a secondary weapon and of course your Amulet power.
Annoying beasts. Always been more of a dog man myself.
Speaking of which, the Amulet powers are awesome and a great addition to the game. They create this overpowered supernatural experience in Strange Brigade, and without them it would just be another shooter. Each of the 4 playable characters has their own set of amulets tailored to their gameplay experience, and whilst you start off with one, you can unlock more with skill points. These powers range from Nulangu's fiery slam to Gracie's powerful balls of magic. You fill these amulets up throughout the level by collecting souls, and once ready you just need to time the perfect use of them to decimate your foes. It is rewarding, and there's nothing better than wiping out half the enemies on screen with a perfectly timed super. All these skills and weapons come together in the game to create a fantastic explosion of action. You kind of build your character in a way and get used to how they play, so that when you're faced with challenging waves of foes, it is a piece of cake to destroy them all. Saying that, the game is still challenging but in a refreshing way. Heroes feel weak to the point where a few hits and you will have no more health. This way you don't ever feel godly, which is a welcome addition to the genre, as often you take a few dozen hits and still come out alive, whereas Strange Brigade makes you feel like you're a human and you have to protect yourself like one. If things are getting heated, then roll out the way and change tactics, else you will die. The entire aim of the game is to complete each awesome stage, kill a boss or soul cage at the end, and walk away with the loot like gold and treasures that you found. Gold is the currency in which you use to unlock new weapons, but the issue here is there are limited unlocks. Sure, we could all wish for a lineup to keep us busy forever, but after the entire playthrough and a few stages, I had everything unlocked with no real reason to head back in and collect gold. I so wish there was more incentive to replay each stage a dozen times, as the gameplay is so darn addictive that you would want to. With only 11 guns, of which 6 of them need to be purchased, I wanted more to aim for after unlocking them all. Some of them I did not even bother unlocking for reasons of me not wanting to use them. I just had that extra gold laying around and did it anyways. Rebellion will be working on a lot of post-launch content for the game, and all I can hope is that they address a way to keep playing the game and wanting to play it over and over again. Speaking of which, there are 2 game modes that act as the game's in-game content: a Horde mode, which is strictly a survival mode set across various arena-like stages, where you need to survive the hordes of enemies and make use of what is available on the stage to do so. The second is a score attack, which sees you replay specific parts of a stage to get the highest points. These modes are fun and should keep you busy for a while. The Horde mode takes the game's addictive shooting into a tight-knit arena where you truly have your wits tested to survive the onslaught while trying to make do with what little resources you are given. Score attack sees you venture into specific blocked off areas in each level and trying to rack up the best possible score by you using your character's loadout as well as traps and specific weapons provided to you. Your score multiplier goes up the more you kill, and it goes down if you do not. The higher your score, the better placement on the leaderboards you get. Strange Brigade is one delightful shooter. It's gorgeous from top to bottom and has fantastic gunplay that makes every playthrough feel better than the last. While its replayability is short-lived, we can only hope that Rebellion adds in something to keep us coming back and fighting for that gold. Right now, it stands as one of the best co-op shooters I've played in 2018.